What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the characters that are coming out in 2.1 and which one I recommend you to summon depending on what phase of the game you're currently in. Usually there's an early game, mid game, or an end game, and then what character should be the best choice depending on which of those three you're currently in, if it makes sense. Characters we're going to be talking about today is going to be Fushan, Acheron, Topaz&Numby and Adventurine, which are the 2.1 characters. I don't know specifically which banner is what, but those are the 4 characters that we're going to be discussing in this video. As always, if you enjoy this type of content and you want to help your boy out, then, let me know by leaving a comment in the comment section below, subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into it. Let's start with Acheron, since she is the hot topic of the patch. My thing with Acheron, I do believe she is going to be one of the best DPS in the game, if not the best DPS in the game. However, she does require extensive investment. She has a severe team restriction at low investment, which means E0 S0. You need 2 extra Nihility characters, including her. Not including her, excluding her. So it's her and then 2 extra Nihility characters that also reliably inflict debuffs. That's her main restrictor. She has 2 main restrictors, okay? The first one being the team. Second one being that she has no realistic light cone options other than Good Night Sleep Well. And that doesn't really help her too much. It only increases her damage for about 24%. So it's an okay light cone if you don't have anything else, but it's not great and it doesn't serve her at all. So those are my main gripes with early game or mid game Acheron. Like, you need 2 other Nihility characters built up. Preferably you're gonna want Pella with a resolution light cone, because not only they need to be Nihility characters, they also need to reliably inflict debuffs. The only ones that can reliably inflict debuffs without the use of their light cones is probably going to be Gwenifin, Black Swan, Kafka, if you want to use Kafka, and Silverwolf. Welt can have the imprisonment, but that's only with his ult or with his technique. You can use that as well. But if you're going to use Pella or Welt, I recommend using Resolution Light Cone with them so they can reliably inflict a debuff. But that's a stepping stone. You need 2 Nihility characters aside from Acheron. Then that means that your team building is going to be severely crippled. So you only have 1 more spot, and that's going to be probably for your sustain. Or if you want to run a sustainless comp with 3 Nihility characters, go ahead. If you think you can clear with just them 3 and then a Harmony character, then you can also do that. But early game to mid game is highly unlikely that you're going to be able to take advantage of Acheron's full potential because of her restrictions. And we're only talking about the team right now. So talking about her light cone, my thing is that they designed her in a way, at least as of right now, all this can change. But as of right now, she needs her S1. She needs her light cone because that's the only way that she can reliably inflict a debuff as well. Because in her kit, she doesn't have any debuffs. She needs to inflict debuffs to charge her ultimate. Because she doesn't have a debuff on her kit on her own or herself, she cannot do that herself. She can only get 1 stack if you have her E0 S0. She can get 1 stack every time she goes. With the S1, she gets 2 stacks, and with the E1, she gets 3 stacks per turn. So if you have her E1 S1, it's perfect. You have 3 stacks. And then if you're going for E2, then you can make it to where you don't have to run the second Nihility. You can run her and just 1 Nihility to get the full damage bonus. Running 1 Nihility and then a good sustain or a good Harmony character like Run May does not quite cut it, because the bonus that she gets from having the 2 extra Nihilities by itself is going to be higher than the damage bonus that Ron May is going to provide for her when it comes to actual damage bonus, if it makes any sense. Whenever I make my calculation video on Acheron, you guys are going to see what I mean. But as of right now, if you're not going to go E2 on Acheron, I highly recommend to just wait until she reruns and build your account a little bit higher up. I'm talking about early game people, guys. Early game people. And possibly mid game too. Wait a little bit, build up your account a little more, build up the 2 Nihilities, plan ahead, and save enough currency to get her and then her light cone, and then you'll be set. If you're a spender, you want to spend for her and her light cone, that works as well. So, but for early game players and maybe a few mid game players, I wouldn't be looking into getting just an E0 S0 Acheron, okay? But don't get me wrong, Acheron is going to be insanely cracked, and I don't want you to get a character E0 S0, and then you're gonna see everybody's Acheron doing 1 billion damage, and then your Acheron is gonna be doing like hitting like a noodle, it's gonna be bad. If you don't have the team that she requires, you're not gonna see the damage numbers that you would want to see from your Acheron, and you already spent the pulls. You're gonna end up benching her for a little bit until you can get your account up anyway. So might as well save up your currency or get a sustained character like the one we're gonna talk about next, which is Fushan, which in my opinion is the best character in the game, splashable on any team. buffs your offense, buffs your defense, pretty much makes your team immortal. She heals, she self-heals, she does everything. If you get her E6, which probably you won't, she nukes as well. Essentially, Fushan is a character with zero drawbacks. She has no cons. Like, she's super easy to build. She works right out the box. So if you're early, mid, or late game, I mean, if you're late game, you probably have sustains already like set up. And if you have your two sustains, let's say you have Huahua and Luocha, or you're planning to go for Adventurine, you probably don't need Fushan. But if you're early or mid game and you only have one of the sustains, say you got a Bailu, or you pulled for Huahua or whatever, or Luocha, and you need a second sustain, then Fushan is my best option. Like, I cannot ever see myself not recommending pulling for Fushan. She's been on my account ever since she came out, and she's on every single team. Like, every time I do MLC, she's in one of the teams. Every time I do Simulated Universe, she's in one of my teams. Is she the best sustain for every single scenario? Of course not, because, like, you know, sometimes you want your part, sometimes you would want Adventurine, like we're going to talk about later. But for the most part, Fushan pretty much splashes into any team. I don't know, she's just cracked. She's insane. All right, moving on, we got Topaz&Numby coming out as well. So the thing with Topaz&Numby is that she is, or they are pretty much the follow-up Kafka. And what I mean by that is that they enable follow-up teams to really succeed and really pop off. Like, they take follow-up teams to a whole nother level, you know? And given that everybody has a follow-up character in Dr. Ratio, we get Herda, a lot of you lost 50-50 to Himiko. She works with all of those guys. So Topaz&Numby is a character that has a lot of longevity. Follow-up attack teams are not going anywhere, so they're going to be relevant in the meta forever. Better characters are going to keep coming out that are follow-up oriented, like Adventurine, which we're going to talk about next, that are going to keep buffing Topaz more and more. She will always be a good character to have, just in case a busted follow-up attacker comes out. She's going to, you know, pretty much catapult that character's damage a little bit more. She's also a good fire DPS option, which in my free-to-play account I have Topaz&Numby, and I used her to carry me through World 5 of Simulated Universe when I was severely underleveled. She has really good free-to-play option icons like Swordplay and Cruising in the Stellar Sea, which is the free-to-play Herda shop. She has a lot of value, especially since everybody who's playing currently should have a Dr. Ratio. So just her and Dr. Ratio, that right there is just a chef's kiss. And everybody has Herda, possibly E6 because she's free at E6. She is a great unit for Pure Fiction, and Topaz&Numby deal damage and also buff Herda. So overall, Topaz&Numby, fantastic character. I didn't pull her in my main account because I'm not interested in follow-up attacks as of right now, but if in the future, like let's say in a second rerun, follow-up attacker comes along and I want to really go for her, I will, because she's a really good character, and she's also future proof, like I mentioned before. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk about Adventurine. My thing with Adventurine, I love characters like Adventurine and like Blade because they have what I call double stats. So what a double stat is to me is that a stat that serves two purposes. So for, let's say, Blade, his HP is HP and also damage. Same thing with Adventurine. His defense is defense and also damage, which makes him a DPS sustain at low investment. So if you're going to build him so he can fulfill his sustained duties, you're going to build defense for him because his shields stack off defense. But at the same time, since his attacks scale off defense, you're going to be building damage as well. So he is a DPS sustain hybrid off the bat. He has good free-to-play Lycon options that you can use. There's one in the shop, the new the new Forgotten Hall shop has a good Lycon for him. There's another Lycon, a 4-star Lycon that's going to come out too. So he has a few options aside from his own. He works fantastically well with follow-up attack teams because he is also a follow-up character. And Adventurine and Topaz&Numby core is going to be pretty much a staple for every follow-up attack character. So that's pretty much going to be the go-to sustain and also the go-to buffer or debuffer, you can say, with Topaz&Numby. If you have a lot of follow-up attackers, let's say you have Dr. Ratio, everybody has Dr. Ratio. If you pull Topaz&Numby and you already have Topaz&Numby and Dr. Ratio in your account, then Adventurine will add tremendous value to that team. And, you know, it doesn't have to be Dr. Ratio. You can do Herda, you can do Himiko, and it'll be the same thing. I mean, Blade to a certain extent. But yeah, Adventurine is looking like a great, pretty much like the best shielder in the game because he gives you shield for free. Like, you don't have to use a skill. He can be played skill point positive. He does follow-up attacks, which out of turn attacks are busted. Also with that comp, you're going to have pretty much 3 DPS, triple DPS team comp, because one of the DPSs also serves as a sustain, and then you can just add Ruan Mei and buff everybody up, and that team is gonna go super crazy. But for that, you also need to build all those characters up. For an early game player, you might not have Topaz&Numby, right? You might not have, you have Dr. Ratio, but you might not have Topaz&Numby. So if you want to just go Dr. Ratio and the Adventurine, then that can work. But without Topaz&Numby, Topaz&Numby is going to like glue everything together. So if you just want a sustain character, you can just go for FuXuan, right? If you want a sustain character that you can possibly use as an imaginary damage dealer as well as a sustain, you can do Adventurine. Adventurine is not going to buff your whole team, but is going to serve as another DPS as well. So, and that's another thing I like about Adventurine. He can be played however you want. He can be played pure sustain, and then he also can be played sustain DPS hybrid. You can build full like defense and HP tank build, or you can build him with crit rate, crit damage, and defense subs, and then he'll pop off on the offensive as well. So also has a lot of longevity because follow-up attack teams have a certain gimmick of follow-up attacking. And then Adventurine not only has follow-up attacks, he also benefits from other characters doing follow-up attacks. So Topaz&Numby, they just synergize so well. It's like a perfectly crafted meal. You know, like every flavor just goes together. That's what they are. And then you add a third follow-up attacker, which is your main follow-up attacker. And then you just add a Ruan Mei there, or a character that buffs the whole party. And it's just going to be beautiful. So if you have Topaz&Numby already, you also have Dr. Ratio, then I would suggest you going for Adventurine in any state of the game, because you're getting a 2-for-1. You're getting a DPS, you're also getting a sustain character. Okay, so just to recap my recommendation, if you're early game and you don't have your sustains already set, Adventurine or FuXuan. FuXuan is my #1 option because she's just so busted. She's just crazy beyond belief. I have a guide on my channel, just look through it. I have my FuXuan guide. Adventurine is going to be a crazy shielder as well. So if, I don't know, let's say your main attacker is Yangqing, right? Yangqing is also a follow-up attacker, so you can run him with Adventurine, shield Yangqing. He doesn't get hit, he doesn't lose HP, he doesn't lose his buffs. He's not useless because of Adventurine. Adventurine reciprocates because whenever Yangqing does the follow-up attack, he gets a stack for his follow-up attack, and when he gets to a certain amount, he does his own follow-up attack. Adventurine or FuXuan, I would recommend FuXuan more than Adventurine if you're just looking for a sustain. But aside from that, that's the only two I really recommend for early game. Mid game is kind of iffy because some people tend to build Nihility characters, some people don't. I didn't build a lot of Nihility characters until later. Like I built my Pella after I built my Silverwolf. And I didn't get Silverwolf like right away. So some people just don't like building Nihility characters. Like I'm one of them. I have a Welt I haven't built. I have a Gunaifen I haven't built. I have Luca I haven't built. I only have Black Swan, which I just pulled. And I had Silverwolf and then Pella because Pella is just so broken. So most of you are going to have Pella. You're going to need a Resolution Lycone for Pella to work with Acheron. But if you're mid game and you're looking for a good DPS that you can eventually build up to, Acheron is looking crazy. Acheron is looking like she's gonna deal crazy amounts of damage when she is in a proper team and properly built. But again, for Acheron, you got to plan it out, or if you haven't planned it out by now, you're gonna have to spend a little bit because she needs her S1. So keep that in mind. Gunaifen works really well with Acheron. Welt also really works well with Acheron. I would put Resolution Lycone on Welt. And then Silverwolf also naturally works well with Acheron as well. If you're mid-game, you probably already have your sustains. So like I mentioned, just make sure your sustains are covered first. And then you can proceed of getting like busted DPSs. And then late game, I'm assuming you already like beat everything already. So your sustains are already covered. And in that case, just get Acheron. Her animations look nice. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen them by now. She looks insane. Her damage is insane. She's looking, if not the best DPS in the game, second best DPS in the game. And that's only because Sparkle is a thing. If Sparkle wasn't a thing, she would be #1 immediately, okay? So that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And until next time, guys. See ya.